Someone you love is going to die. And when that happens, you are going to do something strange. You are going to gather people together, put the body somewhere specific, say words over it, and then eat food with strangers. You will probably cry. You might even laugh. And the whole time, some quiet part of your brain will feel like it knows exactly what to do, even if nobody ever taught you. That feeling is not a coincidence. It is 100,000 years old. Death ritual is one of the oldest things humans do. Older than writing. Older than farming. Older almost certainly than language itself. And yet when archaeologists first started digging up ancient burial sites, many of them assumed the behavior was symbolic. A fluke. Something that needed to be explained away. They were wrong. The more the evidence stacks up, the clearer it becomes. Ancient humans did not stumble into ritual. They invented it. They chose it. And they chose it for reasons that still live inside your body today. So what did ancient humans actually do when someone died? The answer is weirder, more tender, and more complicated than almost anything you learned in school. Start with the oldest evidence. In 2021, a team of researchers announced the discovery of a burial site in a South African cave system called Rising Star. What they found inside stopped the scientific world cold. The remains belonged to Homo naledi, a small-brained ancient hominin that lived roughly 250,000 to 300,000 years ago. This species had a brain about 1/3 the size of yours. For decades, scientists assumed that deliberate burial required a certain cognitive threshold, a mind capable of symbolic thought, of understanding death as a concept. Homo naledi did not meet that threshold. And yet the bodies had been carried deep into a cave with no natural light, placed carefully in the earth, and surrounded by intentionally engraved markings on the walls. The lead researcher, Lee Berger of the University of the Witwatersrand, called it one of the most surprising findings in the history of paleoanthropology. A creature we assumed was too simple to mourn had apparently been mourning all along. That discovery shook a foundational assumption. The idea that ritual behavior requires a certain brain size, a certain intelligence. But the evidence kept pushing back. Keep going forward in time past Homo naledi, into the world of Neanderthals. For a long time, Neanderthals were thought of as brutes, primitive relatives who lacked the inner life to do anything more than survive. Then the burials started surfacing. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, archaeologists found a Neanderthal skeleton, surrounded by pollen clusters from multiple species of flowering plants. The original excavator, Ralph Seletsky, suggested in the 1970s that the flowers had been deliberately placed, that Neanderthals had buried their dead with blooms. The interpretation was controversial for decades. Some researchers argued the pollen arrived via wind or burrowing animals. But more recent Neanderthal burial sites across Europe and the Middle East show clear evidence of intentional placement, body positioning, and grave goods. A child buried with a cap made of eagle talons. An adult positioned on their side, knees drawn up as if sleeping. These are not accidents. Something in the Neanderthal mind understood that a dead body was not just a dead body. And then there is your direct lineage. Early Homo sapiens. By around 100,000 years ago, fully modern humans, in places like Kafsa Cave in Israel, were burying their dead with red ochre, a pigment that appears in burial sites across the ancient world with striking regularity. Red ochre contains iron oxide. It bleeds like blood. It has been interpreted as representing life, protection, transformation. Anthropologists like Paul Pettit at Durham University have spent decades cataloging the diversity of ancient mortuary behavior. And what emerges is not a single practice but a spectrum. Some groups buried their dead immediately. Others exposed the body to the elements first, then collected the bones for a second burial. Some painted the bones. Some burned them. Some kept the skulls nearby, as if the relationship with the dead did not simply end at death. This is where it gets strange, because what you are looking at across all these cultures, across all these thousands of years, is not just a fear of corpses. It is not just hygiene or superstition. It is something that looks unmistakably like grief. And grief, as it turns out, is not a modern invention. Grief appears to be an ancient, adaptive, deeply wired response to the loss of attachment. The primatologist Jane Goodall documented chimpanzee mothers carrying their dead infants for days, sometimes weeks, unable or unwilling to put them down. In 2018, a killer whale named Tahlequah carried her dead calf at the surface of the ocean for 17 days, traveling over 1,000 miles. These are not ritual behaviors, but they point to something underneath ritual. The raw, biological unwillingness to let go. Humans appear to have taken that raw impulse and done something extraordinary with it. They organized it. They gave it shape, structure, community. They surrounded death with behavior. Because behavior is how the human nervous system processes what it cannot understand. The neuroscientist Mary Frances O'Connor, who studies grief in modern humans, has shown that the grieving brain activates the same reward pathways that light up when you are searching for a missing person. Grief is, at its neurological core, a search. The brain keeps looking for the person who is gone. Ritual, it turns out, may be the mind's way of giving that search somewhere to go. A grave is a location. A ceremony is a script. A community gathered around a body is a group of nervous systems, telling each other together that the search is over, that it is safe to stop looking. This may explain something that has puzzled anthropologists for a long time. Across wildly different cultures, separated by thousands of miles and years, certain elements of death ritual appear again and again. The body is handled by specific people. There is a defined time period of mourning. There are specific foods or fasts. There is some kind of transformation of the body, whether by burial, burning, or exposure. There is a gathering. Victor Turner, the British anthropologist who studied rites of passage across dozens of cultures in the 20th century, called this the liminal period, the in-between time, the threshold, the moment where the community holds its breath together, while the dead person crosses from one state to another. Turner argued that these rituals were not primarily about the dead at all. They were about the living. They were about the community reknitting itself after a tear had been made. Think about the last funeral you attended, or the last one you watched in a movie, or read about or imagined. The specific gestures will be different depending on where you come from. But the architecture is the same. Someone died. People gathered. Something happened to the body. Words were spoken. Then everyone ate. This sequence is so old, so persistent, so cross-cultural, that it is almost impossible to explain it as coincidence or tradition alone. It runs deeper than tradition. It runs into the biological structure of what it means to be a social animal who knows it is going to die, because that is the other piece. Ancient humans at some point in the deep past developed the awareness of their own mortality. Nobody knows exactly when this happened, but the burial evidence suggests that the response to that awareness was almost immediate. You became conscious of death, and you started ritualizing it. You built meaning around the thing that had no meaning. You turned the abyss into a ceremony. Anthropologist Ernest Becker, in his 1973 book The Denial of Death, argued that all of human culture, all art, religion, and civilization, is fundamentally a response to the awareness that you are going to die. The pyramids of Egypt, the cathedrals of Europe, the burial mounds of prehistoric Britain, the carefully placed body of a Homo naledi deep inside a South African cave, all of it, Becker argued, is the same gesture, a refusal to accept that death is the end. Whether you agree with Becker's full thesis or not, the archaeological record makes one thing clear. The impulse to mark death did not wait for civilization. It arrived before farming, before cities, before writing, before organized religion as we understand it. It may have arrived even before language. Whatever first sparked in that ancient brain, when another member of the group stopped moving and would not get up again, the response was not to turn away. The response was to do something, to gather, to place, to mark, to say in some way that left evidence in the rock for hundreds of thousands of years. This person was here and their leaving mattered. Tonight, if you scroll past a news story about someone dying somewhere in the world, you might feel a small pull of something, a flicker of the ancient architecture activating. And if someone close to you has died, you already know what that pull becomes. You know the way the brain keeps looking. You know the relief, strange and incomplete, of a ceremony. You know the table afterward, the food that appears from nowhere, the stories that start coming out. That is not culture. That is not tradition. That is 100,000 years of your ancestors, and the ancestors before them, doing the only thing a social animal can do when one of its own goes dark: gathering, holding, marking, and somehow, impossibly, carrying on. Someone you love is going to die, and when it happens, you will know exactly what to do. Not because someone taught you, but because the knowing is written into something much older than memory.